Hi, I'm Jane, and together with Jodes, we are two proud feminists passionate about female empowerment. This podcast is our take on the real conversations, real issues, and real challenges we must stay focused on if we're going to inspire the next generation of female leaders, managers, and entrepreneurs to pick up the baton and continue the journey to equality. But be warned, there will be rants and the odd profanity, but mainly just lots of curious conversations, uplifting stories, great guests, and food for thought on the path we still have to travel. It is clear that our young girls need us to harness our gumption and to use our voices now to make the changes we all know need to happen. It's time to be a pioneer, not a passenger. To paraphrase the famous words of a female game changer, Hollywood's iconic Bette Davis, fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
Hello, welcome to Jane and Jodes on One. Real women, real conversations, real issues. We're back with you today with episode 3 in series 1 of our podcast. And today we're going to be talking about, do we feel valued as women in the workplace? So a little bit of a health warning for today. You know, we might really dig under some perceptions, some beliefs. We might question some of those. You might feel a little bit stretched and a little bit challenged in some of the things that have been deeply planted in your brains. So yeah, we're going to be talking about that question today. So I'm going to start with a couple of key stats because I think these are really, really important. Because the statistics, when you look at them, a broad kind of angle, they're really signposting towards, well, no, women don't particularly feel valued in the workplace. So we want to get you involved in that conversation. So, top of the shop, 1 in 9 women will lose their job just because she's pregnant. Now, that's not always as obvious as it may seem. It's not as clear-cut as that, because obviously it's against the law. You're not supposed to do that. So often there are many underhand ways that these situations do come about and end up happening. But, you know, that's quite significant for 1 in 9 women to lose their job because they're pregnant. If we look at the FTSE 100 figures in terms of women who are board members, that current figure stands at 39.1%, which you might think, oh, okay, well, it looks like it's going in the right direction. You know, women are doing well, they're progressing in the workplace. But actually, if you get under the skin of that statistic, then actually many of those women are actually in non-exec, non-director, non-operational roles within the organisation. And actually those particular figures no longer have to be reported. So it's easy to kind of bump that number up with a lot of non-exec board members, which is where some of the women are occupying at the moment. But when we do get into those operational roles, actually that figure is a bit more realistically around the 30% mark. 30% of women are now occupying leadership roles, so middle management or above, and getting into some of the more operational director roles. So we've still got a long way to go as far as that's concerned. You know, the age-old pay gap conversation has been going on for quite some time. Sadly, it's got worse since COVID, and actually we've had a lot of women exit the workplace because of the fallout of COVID. You know, if we just take the, you can cut the data around pay gap in so many ways. If you Google it, you can find so many different statistics. If we just take it at the broad level, across all employees, full-time, part-time, just everybody together, then that gender pay gap is currently running at 15%. So we've still got many, many years ahead of us. Actually, COVID's put us back a good couple of years in gaining equality. And I guess one of the more stark statistics is where we've got a leak, because actually one of the biggest and most impactful leaks is at the middle management level. You know, so women do tend to do really well in progressing up to a middle management kind of role, but then they leave. And then, you know, people tend to be scratching their heads a little bit about, well, why?
Well, where did he go?
Where do they go? Why are they leaving?
Where is this special place that all these middle managers go?
Yeah. You know, and actually in some sectors, that figure of women in middle management roles that are leaving is as high as 40%. So, you know, we're talking significant leakage.
Absolutely.
What a word.
And then we have less women to get further up, don't we? So if we're losing those talented women, and they are talented, if we're losing 40% of them at senior middle, then we've got less and less of a pipeline to get around that top table, haven't we?
Definitely. Which, you know, actually, that's the kind of stuff that's forming and shaping the current narrative around that, isn't it? Yeah. So let's talk about that narrative.
Okay.
How's that shaping up?
Yeah, so I think we have to be realistic and accept that most organizations are still coded male. So what do I mean by that? Well, you know, men have been in business, running businesses, sitting on boards for a lot longer than us. They founded these companies, you know, they've been running them, they've set the tone, they define the values, they define how it works. And, you know, we're pretty new to the game. So we've only really been serious about those career jobs for maybe 60 years.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's not very long in the big scheme of things. And when you talk to lots of men, you know, even younger men, they'll say, well, you know, women aren't really that bothered about a career. I mean, you know, they kind of quite like working, but they don't have to work. So it's not something that's driving them. They don't have to work. You know, they like to get out of the house and earn a bit more money, a bit of pin money. You know, but they haven't got what it takes to get to the top. They're not driven. They're not prepared to burn the bridges behind them. They're not prepared to do what we do. They're not prepared to work 14-hour days.
Yeah.
They're not prepared to do all of that. So women don't get taken very seriously. Even if they're very, very bright. So that narrative feeds into discrimination, and it feeds into gaslighting, which, you know, we all recognize now as quite a key emotional discrimination that takes place. And so all of this kind of keeps a lot of these things in place. So it keeps the old boys network in place, because a lot of men feel threatened now by women. So it's really even more important to have this boys network, but it's a secret society.
Yeah.
It's not open. It's not like, well, this is the network of the boys. In terms of like our networks are open. So if we have an all-female network, it's like it's women's this, it's women in business, it's women in retail, and it's clear. It's like does what it says on the tin.
Yeah.
But theirs aren't like that. Theirs are very hidden, and so they are kind of trying to like keep us out, if you like. They're trying to keep us out, and that's been going on for a long, long time.
I actually remember not so long ago, doing some freelance work in a bank. And being absolutely flabbergasted. I thought this was just a bit of a joke these days, that deals were still getting done on the golf course.
Yeah.
I laughed, and they're like, no, we're being serious. I'm like, you are kidding me?
Yeah.
But only the men could go to the golf course. Yeah. The women weren't allowed to go. I was like, what century are we living in?
Hello. Yeah, absolutely. And when I talk to women, and we do some training around the Big Sister program that we're both involved in, you know, I talk about this game.
Yeah.
Okay. So the way to get promoted is a game, and it's a game because men like games. And so it's all about winning and losing and competing. And this is all male energy. This is what men like. They like that aggressive, kind of ruthless game mentality. And business is set up like a game. So to get promoted is a game. And it's based around 3 facts. It's based around your performance on the job.
Yeah.
Okay. Your visibility in the business, and your personal brand. And women are always stunned that the least kind of percentage in those 3 areas is your performance on the job.
They are always shocked, aren't they?
They always
think that's the highest.
That's the highest thing. Oh, well, you know, my promotability is based on how good I am at my job. Wrong. It's not based on that at all.
No.
In fact, very little is it based on that, maybe 10%. What it's really based on is your visibility in that business.
Yeah.
So who knows you? You know,
And
what
who do you
networks
know?
are you in? Who do you know? Who are you courting for the next job? Who are you taking out, you know, for a drink after work? What are you doing in your lunchtime? Who are you having breakfast with on the way in? You know, who are you playing golf with on a Saturday morning? Who are you taking to the match on Saturday? It's all based on that visibility. And then your third thing is personal brand, which again is quite high. It's like, who are you? What do you stand for? What do people think about you? What do they say about you? What are you best at? What are you good at? What would be your niche? And these
what are you known for?
Yeah, these are two things that women don't spend any time on whatsoever, because they think it's all about their performance. So what I say to women is, A, recognize the game. Okay, now understand it's a male coded game. Understand that, recognize the game, learn how to play the game, get around the top table, change the game.
Yeah.
You can't change something if you're not in it.
No, you've got to be in it to win it.
You've got to be in it to win it. Now, this is tough because this is a male game. And so it means that you may have to come out of your natural female energy to play it. But you don't need to play it for long, because once we get 30% of women on that board and at the top, then those women will effect change. But we need to get them there first. So the other thing I always say to women is support the women that are there.
Yeah.
Support the women on the pitch, because that's a hard game.
Whereas that's not what we do, is it? When those women that are, I'm going to call them brave enough to
step into
the game.
Yeah.
Actually, we stab them in the back sometimes.
We don't like it, do we?
Don't like them.
They're not one of us.
Who does she think she is?
They're not one of us.
Yeah.
Become one of the boys, aren't they?
Yeah.
Become a bit ladette. You know, become a bit hard, become a bit ruthless.
Rather than recognising she's having to play that game on our behalf.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And she needs our support right now, not us turning our backs on her.
She needs our sisterhood, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Because if she's not doing that, she's not opening the opportunity to us to do that.
No.
Now, nobody's perfect. There are clearly some women that are there as queen bees and have pulled the ladder up behind them. Don't want any more women around that table, because they like being token women and they like the attention that gives them. And let's not pretend there aren't some of those women.
But isn't that because they've been sucked into the male coded world?
Yeah, possibly. Well, they've had to be to get there, haven't they?
Yeah.
You know, but they're not particularly supportive of other women.
No.
Yeah.
It's almost like they've become that.
Yeah, but I think they're now in the
male.
minority, those women. I think that maybe in the 80s we talked about the original Superwoman, didn't we? With
it's not all shoulder pads.
I don't think there are that many of those women anymore. And in the first book that I wrote, the first book I wrote was called Superwoman. And it's called Superwoman, Her Sell-By Date Has Expired. And it's all about looking at how we are behaving in this environment and how we've had to adapt to this environment. And in that book, I talk about energies, and I talk about the difference between female and masculine energy. And before I talk about it, because this is a kind of divider for a lot of women, they feel very challenged by it and they get quite upset by it. What I would say is that we all have both sets of energy. We all have both. We can all call on both when we need them. We all naturally have we all sit on a different spectrum of this energy. So some women have more male energy than female energy and are happy to live there because that's them doing that.
Yeah.
Some men have more female energy than male and they're happy to live there because that's them doing them. It's only a problem if you're not doing you and you're trying to live in an energy that's not natural for you and you're trying to sustain that, because that's like trying to run in somebody else's shoes, isn't it? You can walk in somebody else's shoes, but try running in them.
Yeah, they're either going to fall off your feet or you're going to end up with really bad blisters.
And you're going to fall, or you're going to
fall on your arse over.
Yeah. So we can do it for a while. And one of the reasons I left corporate is because I was being asked more and more to spend more and more of my time in that energy, male energy. And I was really uncomfortable with it. And so that, along with the politics, is why I went off and became an entrepreneur at 28.
Yeah, it's funny when we talk about this, though, because, you know, as you're chatting away through that, and I'm thinking, actually, and people have said this to me, to be fair, many different people, not just one or two, that, oh, you've got a lot of masculine energy. You're very male in energy. And I think, oh, right, okay.
Is that an insult?
Yeah. But I get that.
Yeah.
I can see it in the mirror and I see how that makes sense. But the last couple of years, probably since I turned 40, I feel knackered all the time. And actually, it's making me start to question whether I am still doing me. I felt like I was doing me, and me was quite male energy for much of my corporate career. And I still use a lot of my male energy when I coach military men, because I do a lot of military leadership coaching. But there's something shifting and something's changing that's saying that doesn't feel like it's authentically me, and it's making me tired.
Yeah.
So something that has served me for so long.
Because you're in a different place, aren't you? You're doing different stuff. You're working with different people and, and creating different businesses and different experiences. And a lot of that is now in that female arena.
Yeah, but it feels really new to me, and I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I wonder if there's a lot of other women that experience something similar.
They know something's not right, but they don't know what or how to fix it.
Can't put your finger on what it is, and then if you can't even put your finger on what it is, then you certainly can't fix it. But even if you know what it is, you don't necessarily know how.
Yeah. So let's see if some of these things will ring bells for some women then.
Yeah.
So female energy traits and male energy traits, very, very different. As I said, we all have both of them, but it's where you choose to live that matters. So I spend 80% of my time in my female energy and 20% in my male. My male energy is what I bring to the table when I am a successful entrepreneur, because some of that energy I need for that. The rest of the time, I'm generally in my female. So female energy traits, female energy is nurturing, whereas male energy is competitive.
Yeah.
Female energy is passive in terms of the need for peace, not passive in terms of weak.
Not doormat.
Yeah,
not
let's
people
not
pleaser.
be clear what that means. It means passive, i.e. a need for
harmony.
Peace and harmony. Whereas male energy is aggressive. It's got a fight mentality to it. I'm ready if needed.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm ready. Let me out there. Female energy is about multitasking, thinking, and processing. So we don't just multitask as women. We multi-think and we multi-process, and we can do all three at the same time. Whereas male energy is task-orientated.
And it's quite it's one thing at a time, isn't it? Yeah.
It's single-minded focus.
Laser focus. Yeah.
Female energy sees the big picture as a global thinker. When you have conversations with women, they're always about, they can always see that bigger game plan. They're always like, if we do that, then that affects that, doesn't it? At the moment, this is what's going on.
And actually, we've talked about recently, haven't we, about how that plays out in politics and where we've got conflict around the world.
Yes, that's the passive thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the passive thing. So, when we look at where we're going to war,
there's a lot of male energy.
A lot of male energy on that.
Not always just males. The energy is male.
Yeah. Well, Margaret Thatcher took us to war,
she did.
Didn't she?
Yeah.
She had a lot of male energy.
A lot of male energy, for sure.
Yeah. So female energy again is male energy is compartmentalized thinking rather than big picture global thinking. Yeah. So at work, I'm at work. When I'm on the golf course, I'm on the golf course. When I'm at home, I'm at home.
Yeah.
The thought of being able to kind of put all those three things together. It's like, did you get the milk? No, well, no,
I've been working.
Yeah, but did you not get it on the way home? Well, you didn't mention it on the way home. Okay. Female, emotional and compassionate. Now, here's a biggie. It's like, as women in organizations, we're being taught quite clearly that it's not good to be emotional.
Well, 80% of the women that come to me for coaching, I say, what's brought you to coaching?
Yeah. And
80% of them will say to me, I've been told I'm too emotional at work. And it's almost like I one of my first jobs is almost to get them to give themselves permission. I have to give it them first normally.
Yeah.
Then for them to give themselves permission that they can bring emotion to work. It's not about leaving it at the door.
Yeah.
That said, there is often something to harness that emotion, to use it productively.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you don't be sat in every meeting crying your eyes out.
Yeah, or going batshit crazy.
Yeah.
You know, so I always say to them, you know, it's about describe it rather than display it, but you still got to feel it and use it to make decisions.
Absolutely. And what goes along with emotion is compassion.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's a female energy, whereas a male energy is about power, rank, and status.
Yeah.
So it's ego driven. Yeah. Female energy is about being supportive and team orientated. Every single woman that I've ever seen step up and accept an award.
Thanks everyone else.
Thanks everybody else.
I knew what you were going to say
then. And
I'll
be sat there going, take ownership, take ownership, take ownership, you know, take ownership, then thank your team. Take ownership, then thank your team. The guys get up, it's all about them.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm like, yes, thanks very much. I've worked really hard this year. I feel like it's recognition for a job well done. No team mentioned. Yeah. Whereas the guy, in opposite of that, will be very strong on productivity and be very practical. Now, again, you know, that's about being target driven. It's about the numbers. It's about where are we on that, John? How many of these do we need to get there? It's kind of all that productivity. Doesn't mean women don't do that.
No.
Okay.
Just do it differently.
They're much focused on that. Female energy focus on value and meanings. Again, you and I both know the amount of women that we've coached is that need to get value and meaning out of what they do for a living.
Yeah, and why sometimes we've really struggled to exist in certain organizations. And it's been because the business's values don't align to ours, and we just can't carry on like that.
Yeah.
Whereas I think for other people who are led with male energy, they can swallow that sometimes and just be like, well, look, it's a means to an end for the next 3 years. Suck it up, get on with it, do it.
It's not personal. Yeah. It's not personal. It's just the way the business runs it, whereas for us it is. It's personal. It's like, well, I can't I'm spending a lot of time here and I need to feel connected. So for the guys, for that male energy, and I keep saying guys because a lot of women have this as well, so please correct me. Male energy, it's about facts, reason, and logic. Yeah. So it's like, how many of them? Well, where's that coming from? Well, what's the reason for that? It's got to have a practical application to it. For female energy, read open and vulnerable, and for male energy, read protective. Isn't that just perfect? So female energy is about being open and vulnerable, and male energy is about protecting. Yeah. So we see that in our relationships all the time, don't we? Female energy is about being a creator, happy to create spaces for others to grow. That's really important. Male energy is to be the provider, the fixer, and the solver. Again, we see that play out in relationships.
Well, you do finally, when a woman comes home and you're like, what kind of day have you had? And she has a little like, oh God, I've had a really hard day. And then, you know, the person who's got the male energy, let's say, starts trying to fix it, and you're like, I didn't want you to answer it. I just wanted you to listen. Just acknowledge me.
Yeah. That was a biggie for me and my husband. That was a biggie because we got together. I'm his third wife. He's my first and only husband. But I used to come back from work and I would be ranting about something and he would go into fix mode. Right, what you need to do, you need to tell him to do one. You need to go into there and you need to sack that person because they're no good. And I'd just be sat there nodding and then getting really wound up. And then I'd end up losing it with him saying, I'm not asking for your opinion.
Yeah.
I'm not asking you to fix me. I'm just asking you to listen and nod.
Just hold space for me.
And make nice little noises. If I want your opinion, and I know you're a very wise man and you've got lots of experience, I'll ask for it.
Yeah.
Until I ask for it, don't give it me. Yeah. And that's how we learn to communicate. So there are still times to this day where I said, Tony, I really need to talk to you about this thing. And I see him like a peacock, like sticking out his chest and say, yeah, okay, love.
I'm needed.
I'm here. What can I do
what can I do for you?
Yeah. Because he knows that you're on, it's your go, and he loves it. But we have to learn to communicate. Yeah. We have to learn to communicate. And the final one, female energy is receptive, intuitive, and gentle. And male energy is linear, direct, and action oriented. Yeah. Okay. So it's really clear the differences. Now, if you as a woman, okay, want to sit more in that female energy, but you are in a male coded environment where this male energy leads, you've got to make one hell of a move.
Yeah. And that's exhausting.
It is.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's exhausting and it's lonely.
Yeah. Yeah. But if we're going to progress,
we've got to play that game.
We've got to play that game.
Yeah, we
We've got
can't
to play
change the
that
game
game.
until we play the game,
Yeah.
and to play the game, we've got to
Gotta be in
recognise
it.
the game.
Yeah, we've got to be in it.
And
Okay.
that's going to stick, that one, isn't it? Well, we hope it sticks with you anyway.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, and so I think there might be many women listening to this episode who identify like me with a lot of the male energy. And I've enjoyed a lot of that male energy for a lot of my career. But I do feel like I'm coming to a point in my life where it's starting to no longer serve me as much. And I'm ready, I think, to start to tip the balance.
And not one's better than the other.
No, I don't want to get rid of it.
Not one's better than the other. It's where you choose to live and where you feel most comfortable. But I would have to say that we are coming into an era of feminine wisdom.
Yeah.
We are definitely, we're seeing it everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, so if you've been forced out of your female energy by the workplace or a relationship you're in, then, you know, you will get this calling back. And we're seeing that with lots of women at the moment. And, you know, just sit with it for a while, because every time I talk to women about that, we defend our position. We defend our beliefs. We defend where we are. And so someone got quite upset with me. Well, all those female things all sound very weak to me. Well, they're not weak at all.
And I kind of hope that, I don't know, if there's a woman listening who's got a male partner who is more feminine energy, or there's a guy listening who feels like they're more feminine energy, that they are no longer feel weak. Because I reckon there's a fair few guys out there that they've got a greater balance of feminine energy, and either they feel weak or the men around them who are dominant in male energy almost say that to them that they're weak.
Can you imagine if men and women, and something we talked about in the first episode, if men and women came around the table together and brought their energy to the table and brought their traits and their different values to the table, how powerful and how successful businesses would be, our political structure would be, our world peace would be, how different the world would look,
how innovative we would be, and the stuff we'd create,
the magic that we would create if we did that and we recognized it. But unfortunately, we're still living in a world where most organizations are coded male, so we come back to that, don't we,
every time. So, I mean, you know, let's tip over into the space of, well, how do we change? What needs to happen? You know, and interestingly, quite recently, you talked to a bunch of women actually in an organization about, well, tell us, what is it that you want and that you need to feel valued in the workplace? Because it was really interesting. There were like 3 key things that they told you, weren't they? What were they?
Well, one was to have more flexible working hours, more hybrid working, and more fairness
around kind of childcare and stuff.
Absolutely. A second one was to be accepted as women in that organization, and that actually we are different to men,
and that's okay. That's good.
That's okay. That's actually a benefit.
Yeah.
And the third was for the men to acknowledge, to recognize and acknowledge that what their sexist and misogynistic behavior was unacceptable. The key here is that they recognized when they were doing it, because it was so endemic that they didn't recognize what was offensive. They thought it was banter, and actually the banter was incredibly uncomfortable. And the banter was not banter. And so it was like getting them to recognize it and accept it, rather than throwing it back on the women, saying, what are you bothered about that? What's your problem?
You're a bit sensitive, aren't you?
I'm only having a bit of a joke with you. I'm having a bit of a laugh.
Touchy.
Oh God, what are you like? Or when I turn up in the organisation, they're like, oh my God, guys, get your ironing boards out. She's here. They're all going off into their little, they're going into their coven.
Just for your witches.
And that was said out loud in the organisation. You're like, oh gosh, we've got some work to do here. That's all they wanted. Those 3 things.
It was just to have that.
And like you say, none of that wasn't about pay.
No.
I wasn't about sitting around.
No perks, no benefits.
That was just, please, that's all we need to stay.
And that's the basics, right? That's just the basics.
Yeah. Did they stay?
Did they stay?
No.
They did not. Did the Eckers like?
No.
However,
they
They did well?
Oh, they all did really well. They all went into organisations that had different structures. 2 of them became entrepreneurs. Yeah, they all done really well. They just couldn't hack it there. And that's happening all the time. And I just think, when are we going to recognise that we're losing all this talent?
Yeah.
This talent. We talk about living in a meritocracy. What's that?
Meritocracy.
That one. Yeah, but we are missing the women in that all the time.
Yeah.
And so I'm a huge fan of quotas. Okay. And if you'd asked me that 10 years ago, I would have said absolutely not. But we haven't got where we need to get, and we're miles off getting there. And I believe that we need temporary change to affect permanent change. So I would like to see quotas until we get to 30%.
Yeah.
And when we get to 30%, take them away. And the response to a lot of women around that is, I want to be promoted on merit. I'm not. Who said you're not going to be promoted on merit? Are you telling me that there's no female talent out there? Because if there is female talent out there, why is it not being promoted?
Yeah.
That's the issue.
That is the issue.
Right? And there is masses of female talent out there. So there's another reason why that's not happening. And it's cultural, and it's societal, and it's endemic. So let's put that to one side. Let's bring the quota in. Let's get 30%, because the women are there and they're talented. Choose who you want. Okay, they're sat there waiting. Just put them on the board. Let's start making the shift, and then let's take the quota away.
Yeah.
But it's not a very popular view.
It's not. And those women then have got to do that bit of recognise the game and play that game. They've got to be ready to take one for the team. They've got to be the women that says, I'm ready to step up.
Yeah.
I'm ready to be the game changer.
But when they do it together, if you've got 30% around the table,
that gets easier,
then you can affect that change. Yeah. If there's one of you, it's really tough. And I've been a token woman on a board, and I used to get the questions from the guys all the time. So Jane, you're a woman. What do you think we should do about that? Yeah. And I'd always respond, I am a woman. I don't talk for every single woman on the planet now, unfortunately. I can only give you my opinion. And that they didn't like that, because it's like, well, we put you on here as a woman. You're supposed to tell us what to do. Mm. Well,
but I'm only one.
So
and there's still 12. There's still 12 of you.
Yeah. So I can't really do that.
It's not very representative, is it? It's not very representative.
No. So there we go. That's where we are in the workplace.
So what does this all mean for us? It's that time. What do we do about it? What is our call to action? Well, I think it's fairly clear, isn't it, from what we've just talked about there, that, if we want true equality and parity in the workplace, then it's absolutely important that we value both male and female energy. So that's not about men. It's not about women. I feel like we need to make that point over and over again, because it's really easy to get lost in that we're talking about men and women when we're not. We're talking about male energy and female energy, and that, most of our organizations are coded with male energy at the minute. So that's the thing that needs to change, isn't it? If for women to feel valued, for us to have equality, for us to have parity, then we've got to redress the balance between the energies.
We've got to be brave. We've got to be, we've got to step up, put ourselves in the game.
Yeah, definitely. We're not trying to get rid of the male energy. It's about valuing both. I think, the important thing I love this one now, this one's going to stick, is recognise the game, play the game, because you've got to be in it to win it, and change the game. There's a group of women who are absolutely ready to take on that leadership role in this piece. So you know who you are. I'm one, I'm in, you one, I'm in, you're in. Who else is joining us? And actually we were chatting earlier about a brilliant quote that we both love, actually. I first read this. It's a Theodore Roosevelt quote, but I first read this when I read Brené Brown's book, Daring Greatly. It's the opening, I was going to say opening sequence then to that, but the opening line about being in the arena, the person who is in the arena, and it's not the critic who counts, not the person who points out how the strong woman stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the person who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, who spends herself in a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and at worst, if she fails, at least fails while daring greatly. And I think that sums up that role about the game, doesn't it? Totally. So, the big question for you that we'd love you to engage with and get involved with us on, so tell us in the comments, is how is your organisation doing with this? Do you feel valued as a woman in your organisation? What does that look like? We'd love to hear some stories.
What can you teach us?
Yeah, some great examples, as well as those that have still got some work to do. So, that's brings us to a close for today's episode, doesn't it? So, thanks for joining us. We've been Jane and Jodes on it. Look forward to seeing you in the next episode.
You have been listening to Jane and Jodes on One. Until next time, remember, sisterhood matters. Together, we are bold, brave, fierce, and unstoppable.